Hi fam and happy Saturday. Zizi Kodwa, former Sports, Arts and Culture Minister, appeared in court earlier this week on charges of fraud and corruption. Let's follow up on his story. He was then released on 30,000 bail and his case was postponed. After his court appearance, he then resigned as the Sports, Arts and Culture Minister, Member of Parliament and as well as ANC NEC member. A few days ago, there was space on Twitter. There was discussion about the ANC and Ramaphosa. Someone was spilling tea about Ramaphosa and the ANC in that space. The voice of the person that was spilling tea is allegedly of Zizi Kodwa, and a lot was exposed in that clip. Please listen to it in the next slide and let us know of your take regarding this. And that's all we have for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you again next time. Bye.
Pushing those who spoke about radical economic transformation in the form of the Mahashule and so they are out there. Now, you ought to be asking yourself now, who is in the current ANC? And I think earlier on, I've given you guys a sneak peek. That is the guys who founded Shanduka, the Ramaphosas. Ramaphosa was, Shanduka of Ramaphosa was being led by Puchuma Hanyel. What happens when Ramaphosa ascends into presidency? Puchuma Hanyel moves from Shanduka, she goes to where Naspers, News 24. Ramaphosa is assured that he will take one of your own into the news engine of this country. Puchuma Hanyel is not a Naspers to add any value. She is planted there because this guy is scared of scrutiny. Now you guys are asking why the media is not talking about Palapala. No, you're missing the whole point. Number two, we're plunged into load shedding. Go and look who is supplying the diesel to ESCOM. Look at what are the interests, what are the BEE deals there. Before Mike take comes and tell you here that you guys are not ambitious as young people, as a BEE beneficiary. Now, what is left of the ANC is interest. Just Google Mcebisi Jonas now. Google Mavusam Simang now, and you will see where are they sitting. They are sitting in the boards of MTN, South 32, Platinum, all these companies. These are the interests that are currently driving the ANC. Whose interests are those? Are the markets. Hence the ANC is chatting with the DA because everyone who's left-leaning, the people who have voted the MK have spoken in the space because they cannot identify with the character of the ANC or what ANC has become. The people who voted for the EFF or who borrowed, who lended their vote to the EFF or the EFF borrowed from their votes. Because of the vacuum within the left, they come back and voted for the MK. Now, who are we to think that the ANC of Ramaphosa will not entertain the DA over Zuma and Malema that the ANC of Ramaphosa is pushed out? Who are we to think that the ANC is having an interest of PMU, who are the downtrodden, disenfranchised, who do not have discussive power, material power, instrumental power? Whereas they push the likes of Mahashule, Zuma, Malema out, if they push those people, who remains? That's the questions that we ought to ponder from. I mean, I'm willing to put my head on the chopping block and I'll come here in this space and say, comrades, I was wrong. But to close it off, remember this. The end of history, they say, the mankind's ideological evolution and the universalization of Western liberal democracy. Who embraces that? It is the current ANC. Who else? The DA. The policies of redress, DA is not interested, but self-preservation. I mean, the DA has been happy with how things have turned out, more comfortable with the ANC of Ramaphosa. What does that tell you? That TNA is willing to sit down and speak with the ANC. But they are telling you, not of Paul Mashatile, but of Ramaphosa. Who is Ramaphosa? Again, think rule of mayor during that transition towards the end of Cold War, when we ushered into this democratic dispensation, is the guy who was chilling with rule of mayor and them. Think around 2011, 2012, when Marikana happened, is the guy who said, when the strikers committed an industrial action, saying we want 13,500. That is nothing. You guys, you know that 13,000 was nothing at the time. But he said the state must commit a concomitant action towards the workers. That is the Ramaphosa that we think, will be left in today. Guys, without saying much, let me land.
Madonna, thank you so much. Before you leave, just one question from me. So in your view, with this unpopular coalition that you sort of emphasized that it's high likely that it will happen, do you think Ramaphosa will remain the president, or what's likely going to be the executive setup there if it does go ahead?
Obviously, we are speculating here. We do not have crystal balls, but remember, I just have to say that I know, let's assume that I'm wrong. But what I'm seeing is this. I subscribe to the notion that white people are playing a long game, not because of we are stupid as black people, but those of us who tasted the crumbs of a bread subscribe to short-termism too much, and they will do everything to bend and for the validation of white people. One, what will actually happen is that the DA has made it clear that they're comfortable with the ANC of Cyril, so Cyril remains the president. But now what we would have done is to bring them within the state apparatus, the state power, the state levers. Number one, we know exactly what they've started doing. They're pushing out Paul Mashatile. They do not care about the actual president, but they know that what they will push for is a deputy president. Even if it's not one, but we know that the deputy president of the country presides over government business. Now here it gets crazier. When they get that deputy presidency and government business, they preside over parastatals. It's obvious, all of you can now predict where I'm going. We're going to privatization, which, by the way, has already started under Ramaphosa. They took this guy coming from Deloitte, I forgot his name, when they did the plan of unbundling, basically breaking down ESCOM from the distribution, transmission, and the distribution side of it. When they've done this thing, and they're saying unbundling, they know that I was a student of Max Feeling at the time at the University of Stellenbosch. She was saying, and now he's the chairperson of the transmission company of ESCOM. That question regarding the DA-ANC coalition and why the rest or other possibilities, combinations are deemed, what do they say? There is this term which is along the lines of Black Khafar or Doomsday coalitions, right? And why the DA is actually comfortable to go into coalition with the ANC and the current ANC is actually confident or comfortable to go to have such discussions with the DA. But if you allow me, co-hosts, I'll just give you just a brief context. And I hope I won't be too ideological. Ideology is important, but maybe let me rely on history. So our transition, as you guys know, at some point we had this government of national unity in the early 90s. And I'm sure most of us here were very young, and some of us are getting, we will have to read or listen at least to your elders what was happening at the time. But that history happens, that transition, South African transition, happened in a very interesting time in terms of the world history. So that's in around 1991, 1992. And at that particular point in time is the end of Cold War. And one of the prominent writers, which I do not respect, but it's Francis Fukuyama, just fools the world writing this book. It's called The End of History and the Last Man, and you guys, maybe some of you have read it, or have heard about it, or heard about the guy, but what he argues in that book, he's saying that humanity has reached not just the passing of a particular period of post-war history, but the end of history, such that that is the end point of mankind's ideological evolution and the universalization of the Western liberal democracy as the final form of human government. Now underscore the universalization of Western liberal democracy as the final form of human government. Now it will tell me something about the ANC at that particular point in time. As you would know, that when the ANC came into our government, it would adopt the Reconstruction and Development Program, the RDP that we talk about it. But at that particular point in time, the ANC emerges as part of a tripartite alliance, right? Now, what is the glue? I think I've mentioned this in some of the space. What is the glue that binds that tripartite alliance, which is the SACP, COSATU, and the ANC? Is the NDR, what you call the National Democratic Revolution. But basically, at the time, these structures, or I would say, the unions, SACP, which I don't know whether it's a political party or it's just an interest group in the ANC, but we believe that the very first thing when you ascend into power, you have to transform the economy, right? And radically so, and then how we're going to do that, obviously, we will nationalize and we will ensure that we transpose the political power into economic power. There are many vehicles to do this. We would have worker ownerships, workers represented on companies' boards, so on and so forth. Let's not go there we can talk about how we transform the economy, but that's not the point now. But they adopted the RDP. Now, what actually happens? That transition, post that transition, where everybody believes that the Western liberal democracy is the final form of human government, the ANC changes from the RDP. Under that ideological posture, if I may put it that way, it adopts gear. It further goes to ASGISA, NTP, and now the NTP, as we've mentioned earlier on, right? Now, here where it gets crazy. The DA also classifies itself, they classify themselves as liberals. Now, you look at all the policies that have been adopted by the ANC, they are not really radical to transform the economy in a way or the other, but rather are targeting inclusion. Now, to the ANC's credit, there are laws such as that have been ascended, such as the BEE, which the DA wants to reverse, and it will reverse it, right? Because the markets don't take BEE seriously now. But also, they've planted into our heads as black people that the BEE is bad. But the norm, like the ordinary South African, when you talk about BEE, they think shares, company ownership, the people who are getting returns on shares, who are largely politicians. They forget that some components of the BEE deal with issues of preferential procurement, skills development, supplier development programs, The companies that we guys are working for are having supplier development programs, preferential procurement because of PE. It has nothing to do with politicians. They're having employment equity. The DA is against that, right? Most of us here are sitting in middle to senior management where we are working. Obviously, if we're executives, we wouldn't be here. But what I'm trying to say is that we get to junior, middle to senior management because of companies are having these employment equity plans that the DA wants to scrap, right? Up until 2019, there was no minimum wage in South Africa. Why? We recognized then that our labor markets are problematic. Then we, we came up with a minimum wage. I think it's too low, but we can debate about it some other day. But these are measures to protect workers' rights. The DA doesn't want that. Now here where it gets more crazier, right? The markets will be pro-DA because why? They are against these things that are protecting your rights as black people. All these things do not benefit white people, but you black people. Now why the ANC? Why the ANC of Tambo, of Lembede, would now go to a table to discuss forming a government with the DA despite the existence of